Ireland played against Gibraltar in the European Championship. Our hopes of qualifying had long since faded. We beat them 4-0. There is a mathematical way, we're told, that Ireland can still qualify for the European Championships, but even after the match, Stephen Kenny was unable to say exactly what it is. But the fact of the matter is that after our defeat by Greece on Friday night at home, any realistic prospect of the Kenny regime continuing seems to be gone. But in his contract it says that while we have a mathematical chance, then he is to stay in post. And he said that we have a game away against Holland in this tournament, which we must play. And then we have a friendly against New Zealand. And then it looks like there will be a change of manager. John Giles joins me now. John, one of our great players, and also a great Irish team manager who changed the culture around the team, made it professional and introduced some of the great players, the best we've ever had, Liam Brady among them. John, thanks very much for joining us.
No bother, Eamon. Yeah.
Now, both of us, I think, were supportive of Stephen Kenny's appointment, but it has been a terrible experience for him, results-wise and luck-wise. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely, Eamon. You know, I think he had a very difficult job coming into it. I think we've spoken about this before.
Yes.
I'd say the players at his disposal when he first came in would have been the lowest, I think, in my time anyway.
Yes.
For managers coming in with players at their disposal.
Yeah, Liam Brady said, John, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah. Liam Brady said on his last appearance on RTE, asked to sum up Stephen's task, he said, "This is the worst group of players that I've ever known in my lifetime," which is quite a long lifetime. And that is a big factor that Stephen had to deal with. Not only that, when he took over the reins, David McGoldrick, who was a very good player, very good front player, decided to retire. John Walters also had difficulty with Keane, Roy Keane and Martin O'Neill, and John also had gone. So it was literally start from scratch with no experience. The experience in the team was restricted to the back four, like people like Coleman, but really not enough. No.
If you go back in time, Eamon, for the players I had at my disposal, you know, when I took over as manager with Liam Brady and his young players, Mark Lawrenson, you know, David O'Leary,
Don Givens,
you know, Frank Stapleton, Liam himself, Mick Martin,
yeah,
came into it. Yeah, so I definitely would have had better players at my disposal,
and Premier League players, as it were. It was no Premier League in those days. First division players,
really good players. I mean, so I think he was very unfortunate in that respect. I mean, if you look at the players that Jack had at his disposal, and during Jack's reign, also the qualification for players, Eamon, became very, very low to qualify. You know what I mean?
That's right. Ray Houghton and John Aldridge are examples. They were both playing for Oxford, I think. And Jack went and persuaded them. And it was one of Jack's great achievements that he saw this opportunity and was persuasive enough to get Ray and John Aldridge.
Oh yeah, he got them in. Yeah. You know, you have to get them in, but they did qualify, which was a big factor in it. But in Stephen's case, it just came from his point of view at a bad time, Eamon, to take over the Irish team.
Yes.
And it's very, very difficult. If you don't have the best players, then you're performing miracles or trying to perform miracles. And I think that's what he's tried to do. And I think he's made a pretty good job of what he's had at his disposal. But the performance against Greece, Eamon, was at a vital time.
Yes.
Very poor.
It was, it was poor team selection, I thought, and tactically they were poor as well in both the games against Greece, who were a team ranked just 4 places above us in the world rankings. Not that they are the world rankings in soccer mean very much, but that was a match and a tie, both of those games, that we really needed to get into the qualification
to do it.
argument.
Yeah, that was a chance. That was a chance to do it. Yeah.
Mark Lawrenson just comes to mind as well, John. I think you blooded Mark Lawrenson, did you?
Yeah, well, but Mark it was a strange case. Mark was at Preston at the time.
Yeah.
And Alan Kelly was at Preston. Alan was my assistant.
Yes.
And in those days, we weren't very well run, as you know. It was a Sunday game.
Yes.
And you didn't get automatic release of players.
Yes.
If the manager didn't want to play, so it was one of my early matches, and we couldn't get release of players. Very difficult. We were playing on a Sunday. And Alan Kelly said to me, he said, John, we have a player here that qualifies for us.
Yeah.
He said he's worth a go.
Yeah.
That was Mark Lawrenson.
Yeah.
You know, he was very young.
Who formed a great partnership. Yeah.
One of the great players.
Yes.
I think who the manager of the England team later on and went crackers, I believe, about it.
Yes.
Because at that stage, once you it changed now, you have to play in a competitive match.
Yeah.
But in those days, when Mark came with us, you only had to play in a friendly match and you're qualified. Yeah,
which would have meant for Stephen, actually, that Declan Rice
exactly
would have been automatic qualifier. And of course, Mark Lawrenson went on to form one of the great defensive partnerships with Alan Hansen at Liverpool and become one of the great players.
One of the great players, yeah, we were just lucky, and that's the way the rules were at that particular time. It's not like now. I mean, we'd have Grealish now, and we would have Rice would have been for us. We would have had them.
Yes.
But anyway, that's the way. That was Mark Lawrenson. I think whoever was in charge of the England team later on went nuts about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we nabbed him at that particular stage.
Yeah, and then Stephen made a point last night and produced a fact that I didn't know. Only of the players who played on Friday night against Greece, only Alan Brown. He's the only player in an 8-year period who came into the senior team through the under-21s. This is before Stephen took over. Now, Stephen has put 20 of our under-21 players into the team in the last couple of years to give them experience and to try and create a new team from scratch, really. This is very hard to do, and there are some people, and Didi Hammam, who's a friend for both of us and someone that we both like very much. Didi said this, and I'd like your opinion on this. He said on Friday night when he was doing the game, Stephen Kenny has been kidding you for 3 or 4 years, talking about young players and all of that. He said, you can't go out and play the kind of football Stephen has advocated, and this is something that I'd like your opinion on. I'm sure the listeners would too. Against teams like Greece and Holland and France, if you don't have the quality players to play that way, he said it's much better to do, to play to your strengths. In other words, your heart, to knock it up there, to do things that have produced results for us in the time. It's basically the same rationalisation that Jack made, even despite the players he had. Now, I rang Didi and I said, that's very disappointing. We had a conversation and I understood what he was saying. And I want your opinion on that, John. I think Stephen tried to do the right thing. We've got to stop this hoofing the ball up the pitch and giving it away and, barging in and hoping that, Dunphy will get a goal from a corner. Stephen tried to do something else.
Well, my take on it, Eamon, is that there isn't one way to do what needs to be done. You have to look at the players you have at your disposal, because you can't change those players.
No.
If you don't have them. I mean, I was very lucky with the Irish team. I had Liam Brady and Mick Martin and had good players, but I never believed in a way to play. The players that you had at your disposal dictated the way in which you could play.
Yes.
That was always my take on it. So I think in Stephen's case, Stephen said when he went in, this is the way we're going to play.
Yes.
I think that's definitely what he said, and that's what he believed. This is the way we're going to play.
Yes. And is it your view, because it's my view, that what dictates the way you play are the players you've got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I say in Stephen's case. I think Stephen said at the start, this is the way we're going to play. Right? At that stage, he didn't really know what players he had at his disposal.
Mm.
You know, I don't believe there is a way of playing.
Right.
Unless you have the players to do what needs to be done.
Yes.
You know, you have to be realistic. I mean, we'd all love to play, get on the ball and the full back to, you know, beat a player or get on it and do this and do that and do the other. If you can't do it.
Yeah, just to go back to your time at Leeds, John. You went to Leeds when they were actually in the second division, what is now the Championship.
Yeah.
And the Leeds team you joined, and Don Revie was managing, was nothing like the Leeds team that became with you, Billy Bremner, Eddie Gray, Peter Lorimer, all these wonderful footballers. Nothing like it, was it? Because you got stuck in 10 behind the ball, 1-0, 0-0, whatever you can get.
Whatever it took, Eamon. Whatever it took, very, very difficult to beat. We had a lot called, say, Willie Bell at left back.
Yeah.
We had big changes over the years, you know.
Yes.
Like when Leeds were at their best, when I came to them, there was no Eddie Gray, there was no Peter Lorimer, there was no Mick Jones, there was no Alan Clark.
Yeah.
There was a young Billy Bremner, there was a young Norman Hunter, there was a young Paul Reaney. Jack was our oldest player.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we played in the way that we had to play, which was very, very difficult to beat. Bobby had a great Bobby Collins, of course.
Yes.
In there. But we had to play, and that's why we got a bad name, because it was very tough the way Leeds played. Never give anything away.
No.
Never.
Now go away from home and shut the game down. Shut the crowd up.
Yeah, when we played at Everton away, like all those teams, like we got promotion, and we finished second in the first division with a record number of points. Playing the way we played.
Yeah.
That's what we were hated because we weren't good to watch. But we were very successful at what we did. Then over a period of time, you see, we got Mick Jones in, we got Alan Clark in, a young Eddie Gray, young Peter Lorimer, a young Terry Cooper.
Yeah.
These were all different class players to the players that we got promotion with.
Yes.
You know, I could name names that you wouldn't even remember. Don Weston, Ian Lawson, Jim Story, Woody Bell.
Yes.
You know, we had all these players at this particular time that would give everything they got, and that's what Don did. So when he got the better players in, we still had given everything we got, and became a great side. You know.
Yeah, and just to make the distinction, managing a club, you're in every day. You've got your players for 12 months of the year. Managing an international team, you only see them periodically, once every, say, 2 months.
That's right.
They don't know each other. In the case the situation Stephen was in, they don't know each other. You don't really know enough about them as people, although you can go and watch them playing as players. But there's a chemistry and a kind of a metaphysical unity that is created, and almost nobody can understand it, but you know it when you see it. But that arises from the training ground and from games and from. But you know, it's
a relationship with the manager and the players.
Yes.
You know, the manager has to have a relationship. It's his job to get a relationship with every player individually if he possibly can.
Yes.
But getting back to the main thing about it, you can only play in the way you have with the players. With the players that you have at your disposal. Amen. I never believe it when I say this is the way we're going to play.
Right.
You know, that's great if you have like 10 Liam Brady's that you have at your disposal, and all the players that we had over the years. But in other words, the principle is what players do I have? And at international level, as we know, you don't have that many choices.
No.
Like you're dependent on other clubs producing players that you can pick, and that's where you're in. I was in a lucky position that say Arsenal produced Frank Stapleton and David O'Leary and Liam Brady at the same time.
Yes.
I didn't do it.
Yes.
They were at our disposal as a manager, so it's very difficult as an international team manager to say this is the way we're going to play. So you see what you have at disposal. Unfortunately for Stephen, he doesn't have any. He doesn't have a Liam Brady and a Frank Stapleton and a Dave O'Leary at his disposal.
Or even a Wes Hoolahan.
Well, Wes is one of the Well, he wasn't picked, but he was one of our favourites. He was a real player.
A real player, and he would have he would have walked into this team, I think, and been a real asset.
Man in this team, Eamon.
Yeah.
So he's unlucky in that way, Stephen, that he doesn't have. That he has a feel for the teams that he wants them and wishes them to play, which is fine, as long as you have the players. If you don't have the players, it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
So, do we agree that he faced almost mission impossible, and that he did introduce, say, Bazunu, the goalkeeper, who I think is a very good goalkeeper. There's a clown writing in newspapers here, I won't name him, but he's a statistician, really, more than a football commentator. He says the stats show, and as you know, Gavin Bazunu has been at Southampton now for the last season where they were. He says he has a statistical proof that Gavin Bazunu is the worst goalkeeper.
Yeah, well,
wait for it, in Europe.
Yeah.
Now he's a terrific goalkeeper.
Well, that's typical of somebody that knows nothing about football, Eamon.
Yeah, I know.
He's playing in the team that's the worst in the league. That's the relegated. He's going to have more shots against him than any goalkeeper. Yeah. Like if you take the goalkeeper from Liverpool, who's a terrific goalkeeper.
Yes.
Compared to the amount of shots he has to save in relation to the goalkeeper at Southampton.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. That's somebody making it some sort of a stupid article.
Yeah. But the thing is, given that your view, and it's your view that matters to people and the respect they have for what you achieved as a coach, player, and indeed as a commentator, perhaps, as much as anything. Stephen's deemed to have failed, but it really isn't fair not to take into account this fact that we're talking about what he inherited in terms of players, and also the appalling look, COVID, empty stadiums, players pulling out because they were injured, players that he desperately needed, strikers and everything. He's been very unlucky, and he's been very brave with it. That would be my view. But it's not my view. I keep giving my view. What's your view?
Well, I think he hasn't been lucky, Eamon.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And in football, like any other business, you need a certain amount of luck. He's come up against COVID, as you say. He's lost players and he couldn't do it.
Empty stadiums, John, as well. The Aviva empty.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. I mean, it's not the time to come in as a manager. No, he's had a lot of bad luck in that particular way. In the other way, he hasn't come in at a time as a manager to have the players that Jack had and some of the players that Jack had and some of the players that I had, for example.
Yeah.
He hasn't got them. He's gone with the young kids. That's the only ones that's available. So he's had a hard job to do, and he hasn't had the best of luck. But unfortunately, Eamon, football is like a lot of things in life. It's a cruel game. It's a cruel way.
Yes.
People don't look at that now. He look at the results he's had. He's looking at the position he's in. And they don't make a case for some of the things that you made there. That's the way of the world. But particularly in football, Eamon, there's no sentiment. There's nothing in football at all.
No,
it's results. And you got results. How are you playing? You go back on our time when Jack was playing.
Yeah,
you didn't like the way Jack played. I didn't like the way Jack played. Right, but he won matches.
Yes,
and he became a hero. You know, people. You think when people talk about Jack, they never talk about the way the Irish team played.
No,
they talk about the results. Where did we qualify? We qualified for the World Cup for the first time ever, for the Euros ever.
Yeah,
history.
Yes, and of course the teams he had were, some of the greatest players: Paul McGrath, Kevin Moore, and Mark Lawrenson. Ronnie Whelan, he dropped Ronnie in for Italian 90.
He left Liam out after Ronnie Whelan out.
Liam out. Yeah.
Because he didn't believe in the way they played, but they won matches. They won matches, Eamon.
Yes, yes.
That's all the crowd worry about. If you come out of the match and Ireland win 1-0 and they haven't played well, people don't really care. They won.
Let me put this to you, John. In the 8 years before Stephen, only one player came out of the under-21s, which is an incredible stat. Now, my view was probably the people in charge, Trapattoni and indeed O'Neill, didn't look at the under-21, didn't look at the underage players at all, didn't even know them. And I'm pretty certain on my ground on that. I don't think Jack did either, but he didn't need to. Stephen does. He knows that scene, and he's put 20 of them into the team and given them their shot, given them the experience, and some of them have come good. Gavin Bizuna would be one of them, and there are a number of others. What should we do now, John? I mean, Stephen looks like he'll lose his job, but he will have left, and Shay Given has been very good on RTE. Shay said on Friday night when Didi was, pretty tough, and I love Didi, and we both do. He's a good fella, but he said Stephen's not good enough was what his end product. But what Shay said was he's left the nucleus, and he named a few players. Collins, the defender, who he left out altogether last night because I think he blamed him for 2 goals we conceded against Greece. But he's at Brentford now, and I think this coach at Brentford's a good coach and will improve him, and has paid Wolves a lot of money for him, 45 million or something. So he's got Collins, you've got Bazunu, Ogbenny. I like Ogbenny. He's gone to Luton now. When Stephen first plucked him out of real obscurity, he was playing in League One, which is a division down from the Championship. And he's a terrific lad. He's got pace to burn. And Stephen knew him, identified him, knew him from the underage game, and gave him his shot. And he's useful, John. I mean, he's not a bad player. But so he'll be a player for the future. Evan Ferguson, I don't think anyone needed to know much about Evan Ferguson. He looks like a real star of the future. I'm sure you agree with that. He took his goal last night. No reaction. He's a very, very impressive young man, isn't he? He's at 18 years of age. So there are players that might go on and form the basis of a team. There's a young fella called Jason Knight, who I first saw playing for Derby County when Wayne Rooney was there. He's been played out of position a lot by Stephen, but he played in midfield last night, his right position, and he's a very good young player. There's a lad called Jamie McGrath as well. There's a lad at Blackburn as well who's a very good footballer. But, and this is a big but, Seamus Coleman has missed, and this has been part of Stephen's bad luck. Seamus Coleman has missed an awful lot of football in the last 18 months. And Seamus would be a massive player, wouldn't he, John? Not just on the pitch, but
he's a leader.
In the dressing room and on the training ground.
Oh, he's a leader. He's a player. But the thing is, football is a very cruel game, as I said before. People don't look into things like that. They look at results.
Yes.
It has to be results.
Yes.
Like, you know, when I go back to Jack's time, Jack was the most successful manager we ever had. You didn't like the way Jack played. I didn't like the way Jack played. And I played with Jack for 10 years.
Yes.
But he won matches, Eamon.
Yeah. I know, and that's the name of the game. Yeah.
And in Stephen's case, people won't look at the good things he did.
Yeah.
They look at the results and say, what did they do? Did he qualify? No, he didn't qualify. He didn't do this, didn't do that. That's the hard reality of football. Supporters don't really care how you play, what you produce. Are you winning matches? Are you qualifying? Are you doing that? That's what it's all about. Unfortunately, I agree with what you're saying. Like, he's done a lot of good things, Stephen. But
yes.
The results haven't been what the supporters and the people want.
Now, although the supporters for a long time did buy in to what he was trying to do, give you young lads. And I mean, the first game of this European Championship campaign was against France in the Aviva. They won 1-0. But we really put them to the pin of their collar, John. We played really well that night. There was real aggression and real talent on show. What I want to ask you now is where we should go from here. The bookie's favourite to be the next manager is Steve Bruce. Now, I speak for myself. I think I'm speaking for you as well, because we've talked about this quite often. Steve Bruce is the favourite. Now, I love Steve Bruce. I respect him greatly. He was a great player for Manchester United in the great Ferguson teams. He's been coaching mostly bad jobs, when clubs are facing relegation. He's had, he's coached in the Premier League, and he's a real credit to the game, a real pro. Would you agree?
Yes, I'd have a lot of time for him, mate. Yeah, he was a real player, and he played for the team. He was a good-hearted lad. He was really.
And you see the anguish sometimes on his face. He was at Newcastle before the Saudis took them over and opened the purse strings a bit, but you could see it on his face every week. And it's not the only club. I think he's been everywhere. Was he at West Brom at some stage? And
yeah. He's had lots of clubs. I mean, lots of clubs.
From here, we've two ways to go: with Steve Bruce or somebody with Steve Bruce. I know you don't like Sam Allardyce, and I wouldn't. I would think that would be a retrograde step. Would you?
I wouldn't have him at all then.
No. He's in the betting somewhere. Or there is somebody really interesting out there. His name is Lee Carsley. He's played for Ireland. He was a stalwart in the teams post-Jack, but he was a good, hard-working, diligent midfield player. Now, he's become a really good coach, and someone told me he's very knowledgeable. I tried to get him onto our panel when you left, and again, when things were going really downhill, and I went into the head of sport, and he said, what do you think we should do? I said, there's one guy out.
He said, take your place.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know it, but I was digging my own grave. Anyway, I said, there's a guy called Lee Carsley. I said, he's coaching the England under-21 team. He's very highly regarded by people I know in England, which is true, all of which is true. And your man said, who's Lee Carsley? Next thing he said is, here's your cards. Anyway.
Can I just say something on that?
Yeah.
I've often said it, I mightn't have said it to you, Tim. The last thing I'd want in my life, with my life on it, is to pick a successful manager.
Yeah, but somebody has to do it, John.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's it would be the hardest thing in the world, or the most awkward thing that I would, somebody, because there's so many managers over the years, Eamon, I thought, well, he's no chance.
Yeah.
Some managers say, he's really good.
Yeah.
And it turned out the complete opposite.
Yes. See, because you just don't know.
I'll tell you what I'll say. I never, ever in my life thought that Jack Charlton would be a successful manager.
Right. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
If somebody had asked me, who's the least person you would think would be a successful manager, it would have been Jack Charlton.
Yeah, and actually he did it in England as well with Middlesbrough. I played against his Middlesbrough team. Graham Souness played for him at Middlesbrough when they were in the second division.
Yeah, they got promotion.
And they got promotion by about 15 points because we had a good team at Millwall. We played against them. They came to the Den and they walked all over us.
Yeah.
And they were playing the Jack way, pretty direct. Get a hold of it up front, knock it back to...
That's what we did. I wouldn't have put a penny on them. And you're talking now, and I don't know that many of the managers. We're only going on reputation like Carsley and all that.
Yeah.
It's as I said before, my experience, particularly after the Jack Charlton situation with the Irish team and Middlesbrough and he was very, very, very successful man. I wouldn't have put a penny on him.
Right.
To do it. Not a penny.
Yeah, this is an exclusive. This is a scoop. This is what they call a scoop. Giles would not have put a penny on Big Jack.
Yeah, but I've said that.
I know that.
Before.
I know that.
And I knew Jack well. And off the pitch, apart from football, I got on very well with Jack.
I know. So we used to go out and have a pint with him in the airport.
Oh, yeah. As long as you were paying.
But I think Jack was a very good man. In his heart, he was good, and many things he did actually for players. He even wrote that nice letter to Liam. Liam's book is out, and I know I'm going to see you there tomorrow night at the launch of it. But he wrote a letter to Liam long after he'd stuffed him.
Yeah, but look what he did, Eamon.
I know what he did. Yeah.
We know Jack did. I mean, there was like players that you mentioned, Liam. He didn't think anything of that. That's what he was like, Jack. Now, I think later on, I think he realised, but he did Ronnie Whelan.
Did Ronnie. I did a few. Listen, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Should we go the Steve Bruce route, an experienced pro from England, or should we try to go the Lee Carsley? I'm not sure Lee Carsley would want the job anyway.
Eamon, I'll just go back to what I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Right. I don't know. I don't know Carsley well enough. I don't know any of them well enough to know. I just wouldn't. I'd be guessing the same as anyone. That's what I said to you before. If you said to me, look, your life depends on picking a successful manager for Ireland, I'd probably shoot myself tomorrow.
Okay. The headline will be Giles threatens to shoot himself if asked to pick the next Ireland manager. Okay, John, as always, it's a great pleasure. And I just finally say that Stephen Kenny, as far as I'm concerned, and I know many people out there, he's a great Irish football man. He's done his very best. He's been honest. Yeah. He never tried to kid anyone. And he got a bad hand of cards, and you can only play the cards you've got.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, John, thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And buying you a Bacardi and Coke. That's the great John Giles.
That'll be a change.
That's the great John Giles.